All right, everyone. We are back tonight for episode 46 of Stub Love Live. And we have a great guest on tonight. We have Tony Swann on. And Tony is the Carlton Fisk collector. And I see that Tony has joined. We have 25 Main Street, Cooperstown on. We have Wheelers on. I see History and Tickets on. I see Game Used, Doug Reiser. I see that Tony's asked to join. Let me get him on.
We get it.
There he is. How are you, Tony?
Very good. How about you,
Uh,
Howard?
I'm doing great. I really appreciate you coming on tonight, and I'm excited to have you.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm happy to share some Carlton Fisk information with the world here.
So let me say this to you, Tony, and let me say it to people who are going to watch this. It takes a lot to impress Howard Citron. And in the last little bit of me kind of getting to know you better, I have to say, Tony, I am incredibly
Well,
impressed.
thank you.
Um, First and foremost, I talked to Tony, and I didn't really know all that much about him. I knew he was a Carlton Fisk collector. But here is Tony's business card, and I know it's kind of reversed. But Tony, tell everyone what your webpage title is.
It's very simply carltonfisk.com. So back in the early 90s when I should have been buying things like coca-cola.com, I was buying carltonfisk.com. And it was always meant to be a place just to showcase the collection, and it's always what it's been. The current iteration of the sites pretty much look the same for about the last 15 years, but in the last month or so I launched a brand new, much improved site, let's put it that way. I mean, it's been database driven for a long time, and anybody that goes on there, I apologize if you might lose 20 minutes of your life trying to search, because you get kind of stuck in the ticket searches, but it's fun. It's
I
fun.
have to tell you, I was incredibly impressed by the site. So Tony's business card, it's Tony Swann, Fisk Collector. It's carltonfisk.com. Tony owns it. Carlton doesn't own his own namesake website.
Right.
Tony has a phone number on there to call him directly. He has a toll-free number. I mean, he's got his email address, and then it says always buying Carlton Fisk memorabilia. And then, Tony, until this morning when I picked up the card, we were having our housekeepers come in, so I wanted to kind of collect my junk so they didn't move it. I actually looked at the back
Oh.
of your business card because I didn't see it before. Tony has another website. It is TicketWantList.com, and the business card says collecting ticket stubs to all of Carlton Fisk's career MLB games. Help find the remaining tickets at, and you give this website. I mean,
it's
impressive, Tony.
it's just I mean, I did that. That's just a redirect basically to the PDF that's already on the Fisk site. And I came up with that maybe about 10 or 15 years ago. I was doing a lot of shows at the time. Like I mean, I used to set up at the National and Chicago shows, and I used to do Twins Fest every year, cities that I needed help in trying to find the tickets. So what I would wind up doing is I usually made like different kinds of postcards that I would use at all these different shows. Like one side might be Fisk related, the other side might be buying old tickets. It's hard with the reverse to see, and then I would have individual ones like for the Twins, buying old Twins tickets, and the 800 number is kind of a throwback to when I was doing a lot of newspaper ads and advertising ads 25 years ago, just trying to find tickets for this particular collection. That's it. I mean, that's really what it is.
So I kind of spoiled it a little bit, but tell us relative. Let's start with just
Okay.
tickets, and then we'll move into everything. But what do you collect ticket wise relative to Carlton Fisk?
Basically anything. The goal is to find one ticket to every one of his Major League Baseball games,
Okay.
regular season. So that was the goal. Um, of course, I never really counted postseason and All Star because I have all those, and those were like very simple themes. I never got into that kind of stuff because it's too easy. Everybody has a World Series ticket from this era. It's just about condition. So then when I figured all that out, I was like, okay, well, postseason, I'll just make sure I get a full ticket from every postseason game in addition to the stub. Okay, that was easy. Same thing with the All Stars, stuff like that. But when I started doing the one ticket stub to every game, it escalated eventually to the point where I really got into variations. So I said, oh, in addition to stubs, there's full tickets. And then the full to me was a lot nicer because you saw the full artwork and what the designer really meant to, what you had when you walked in. I still prefer the stub probably overall because, most likely it witnessed the event, unless some certain dealers have gotten a hold of them and ripped them to sell them twice. But generally speaking, the stub was there. And then I got into color variations and seating designations and suite tickets, wheelchair access, ladies' night, child tickets, all that kind of stuff. So what you'll find on the website was an easy way that I could keep track because I couldn't fit, if I see a new ticket on eBay today or somebody messages me, I need to know in an instant if I have it or not. And I'm not always accessible to the tickets. So right now on the site, there's over 5,400 unique ticket images of Fisk, all searchable on the site. So over 5,400 of them at the moment. Probably about another 50 or so I have to go because what I'm going to do next is I started to scan in all of the post-career tickets. So let's say that's, number retirement, throws out a first pitch, is honored on the field, all that kind of stuff. So there's a bunch of those that have occurred obviously in the last 30 years since he's been playing, and that's kind of a large subset that I never put on the website, but that's going to be next.
So Tony, how many games did Carlton Fisk play? A, B, how many tickets do you have of those? And then C, right now, currently, how many do you need to complete the run?
So I actually made some cool statistics after we were talking, but the number is 2499. They couldn't let him play one more game to just let me have a 2,500 number. So he played 2,499 games, and just after about 25 years of hunting these scraps of paper, I need 31 to finish the collection. So that's 2,468 done for 98.7 percent complete.
Wow.
And after we were talking, I was trying to think about, because you asked me like, when's the last time you got one, or how often do you get them? And what I realized was that when I looked it all up, in the first 5 years, so basically like 1999 to about 2004, I found 1,620 of those tickets. So I was about 65% done after 5 years.
Okay.
And that was not, very difficult. I mean, I did ads all over the country and all the American League cities, and networking with the few people that were around at the time. There were probably at least a dozen of us that were hardcore ticket guys, let's say. I don't even know that I would consider myself a hardcore ticket guy. I'm a Fisk guy, but I got into it. Then the next 10 years, I found about another 29%. So I found like 720 tickets in the next 10 years. And then that leaves the last 10 years, 126 more tickets. So that's about 5% in the last 10 years. And that's what I've always told people. It's like, that you can, if you really hunt for a theme, you can get in that 80% range. It's always that last 20% as to how long do you stick it out? How long do you keep going after it? And I'm at the point now where I find 5 or 6 tickets a year, which is still great. I mean, it's still phenomenal. If I could do that, I'd be happy because then I'd be done at least at some point in the future. But that's the
So,
goal. All it takes is one person to say, "Hey, I have one ticket," and that makes the month. That's it.
so two things. One, let's start. So when exactly did you first start trying to complete this collection?
So it was around probably early 1999. I kind of felt, or maybe it was about mid 1999. I kind of thought like, hey, maybe there's Fisk home runs. Maybe there's, I've always looked at different, trying to find milestones. So even when I collected just pre-tickets, I always saved my own tickets. So I had a lot of White Sox home games that I went to. So I already had kind of a grouping, but I never knew what those dates were or what I needed. The only one I really knew was the debut ticket, the debut date. And even on my old baseball card lists and memorabilia lists, I put that on the want list. And I didn't find that till after I started collecting tickets mainstream,
Mhm.
but it was always something that I wanted. I mean, like I had his last game, because I was there. Like something like his last career. This is a full ticket,
Yeah,
but his last game in 1993.
great.
Yeah, I mean, I already had that before I started because I was at the game. His 2000th hit, I was there. That was another Comiskey Park one. They retired his number. I had that. It was probably sometime after when they retired his number at the White Sox in '97 that I kind of really started thinking about the tickets. And then it took a couple years and I started, and then 2000 was his Hall of Fame year, and then it just kind of erupted. It was okay, let's see what I can do. I met people like Lenny out there, and then it kind of snowballed.
Yeah, Lenny can do that to people. He has that effect on people.
But
Um,
the one thing somebody always said, well, what if you just stuck with the home run tickets? And the crazy part is I said, well, if I did that, he had 376 home runs. At the time, he had the catcher record, 351. I still wouldn't be done because I'm still missing, I believe, 7 home runs out of those 31 left. I'm still missing 7 of those. So, like his last home run, that's the ticket. That was a nicely inscribed one,
yeah, that looks
and
great.
that's a full.
Wow.
And there's the ball for the people that want to see the ball that he hit as his last home run.
Right. So we'll get into that. You're not just a Carlton Fisk ticket collector. You're a Carlton Fisk everything collector, and you're going to show us some things that are pretty fabulous.
Just a
So,
couple things I quickly took out here.
so, so let's just go back to this. So, I know I did ask you when was the last time you had scored one of the tickets that you needed, and I think you told me that you actually scored one in November. And I
Correct.
think I wrote down you found about 6 in the last year,
That's
last
correct.
in November.
Yeah, so it was 6 for the year 2024. Around November, the middle of November was the last ticket that was found. It was a Rangers ticket, and the crazy part. My want list is obviously where you already sent people to, but that list. 10 of those tickets are Texas Rangers. 10 of them are Twins, and then the 11 are just kind of onesie twosie. I need 2 at Fenway to finish off all the home games. I need 1 at Detroit. I need 2 at Cleveland, 1 at Oakland, a few at Kansas City, 1 at Baltimore. There's no rhyme or reason why a lot of these haven't been found yet. But they all exist. Let's put it that way. I mean, they definitely all exist. There's no more rain out, weird schedule games. I've crossed all those off the list. All the crazy ones. Those are all been found. So
So
now it's
you were telling me, Tony, that some of the tickets, again, the Rangers, the Twins, the Royals are the toughest.
yeah.
And I think you said that you associated the toughness of those tickets to a couple of things. One, low attendance to the games, period, during the 70s.
Yep.
You said few season ticket holders because no one was getting season tickets to those teams in the 70s because they were just not good.
Terrible. Yeah.
And then also you said something about coupons on the backs of some of the tickets. So people, I guess, would go to the game, get a ticket, and thered be some redemption for $1 off a pizza or something, and they could go and
Exactly.
redeem it.
Yeah, I mean, people like, the free Dunkin' Donuts coffee the next day or stuff like that. I mean, when I would do these ads in the different cities and people would just randomly call me on the phone number and I would talk to them. And I mean, some of those responses were, oh, I had them, I threw them away. What are they worth? And this is forever ago. But, now those ads aren't so useful. People aren't reading newspapers and,
Yeah,
published magazines and stuff. It's not the same, but I was going after a certain demographic and it really worked. I mean, but people would tell me the same thing. I mean, like the Rangers, for instance, one of the crazy things that I learned along the route was that, when the park, for the 72 was the first year of the Rangers, and it was a minor league park that was retrofitted to make it an MLB stadium. Well, those first, from 72 to I guess 75, or maybe into 76, there was no upper deck. So there was no upper deck around the bases yet. They hadn't built that out. And the other big two components there is that from foul pole to foul pole in the outfield was all general admission tickets. So, I have tons and tons of Rangers general admission tickets I've picked up with no dates. They're all useless. And basically that's what it was. People were like, well, why would I spend, $3 when I could just spend whatever it was, $1.50 and just walk in and sit wherever I wanted.
yeah,
But the thing that really blew my mind was I had multiple people who I talked to and they said, but to be honest, we didn't even have to buy tickets. And I didn't understand what they meant. Like the first couple people, I was like, okay, so I guess you knew somebody, you got in. And they said, no, we would tailgate in the parking lot. And then I believe it was once the third inning ended, they just opened the gates because they wanted to sell concessions. So that skews your attendance numbers, but it doesn't skew your number of tickets out there
right.
because just because they maybe let another 1,000 people in or something or a few hundred people in, they didn't have tickets. They literally just walked in, they saw the game. So that it really, I always kind of believe that the Rangers stuff, pre 1977, like from 75, 72 to 75, those are the ones that I always view as like gold when I find them,
Right.
because those are major things. And luckily at this point, I only have two on that list. I mean, I've been able to cross them all off. I got one from 72 and one from 73 to go.
This is
But
this is fascinating. I mean, I know we're kind of nerding out as to tickets, but this is just fascinating because as ticket collectors, we talk about some of these things. We talk about, why opening day tickets are so much more plentiful, and we talk about why certain teams the tickets are plentiful. And then we talk to a collector like you who gives us some real insight into why some of these tickets that you need are really very tough and
yeah,
tough for reasons that I would never think of.
yeah,
So it's really kind of crazy. I wanna show a couple things, Tony, because your website, and I know you said you updated it, and I know it's kind of just pictures of it, but I mean, it's so very impressive. Everything is laid out so very nicely. There's a biography of Carlton Fisk, his stats, the accolades, and then of course there's this one team, and that's a big part of it. But then you go on, and there's the want lists, and
yep,
it's not
definitely
just ticket stub want lists; it's also memorabilia want lists as well, and other
correct.
collectibles. Yeah. So that's on there, and it's done very well.
Thank
And
you.
then here we go. Here we go. So here is the list.
That's it.
There.
That's the small list. That's the ones that I need the most help with. I mean, they're all out there. So I mean, just I mean, sometimes you get lucky and you find a season ticket holder or you find someone from a city, because that's how I always combated it. Like per city. That's really what I've always tried to do. And then I would dig into each one of the games to see what were the overlaps, like who was the pitcher, who won the game, what happened, and then I would just find those different collectors and figure out how to if they had the ticket, did they have an extra, or how can we get that from them? Let's see what we can trade. So, I mean, we did that. I did that for a long time,
And
and now,
I,
unfortunately, I think I found everybody. But
yeah, I think you said, Tony, you would even at points trade 5 tickets that you had
oh,
for one that you needed or more
with more.
even.
Sure. Yeah, I did that with a lot of guys. I mean, mostly like they were either like home run collectors at the time, like maybe they were, Reggie Jackson collectors or George Brett or whatever it was. I did that a lot. That was always kind of do the reverse lookup and say, okay, what happened here? But what you'll find on the site was that every one of the games is linked to retro, so you could see the retro sheet, the box score and all that. But if I know something that happened, at least with a Hall of Famer player, I've put in like, their win number, their, the home run number, all that kind of stuff in the Fisk game search. So the next thing to add to the site is actually I'll have a search bar on there where you can just type the name in. Right now they're all like drop downs. So you'll select Nolan Ryan and you can say, oh, that's for his immaculate inning game, or you can see the list, but and the tickets and all that. But the next thing will be just type in Nolan Ryan, let's say, and it'll show all those games.
So this is the list. You can go to carltonfisk.com and you can look at Tony's site. You can go to his want list. Please, everyone who watches this, please try and look to see if you have anything that Tony may need. And I know they're pretty tough. I mean, I look at some of these games and boy, there's some rough ones. I mean, the Texas list and the Minnesota Twins list, they're big. Tony also has an oddball Carlton Fisk want list as well. I mean, Donkey Kong cereal and Cookie Crisps with Carlton Fisk on there. Pretty crazy. And then he's got even certain card variations that are more unique that he's searching for. One of the other things that I was really kind of blown away by when we talked, Tony, and it was just really fascinating. You've also compiled a list, and you'll talk a little bit about it. So some of the Carlton Fisk games actually are games of other notable events in baseball or for other players.
Correct.
And Tony has a whole list of some of these tickets that people may want that he's accumulated doubles or triples or quadruples of. And I know you've gotten rid of a lot of them over the years as part of trades. But obviously there's Fisk tickets of his debut and things like that. But Goose Gossage's save, his first save, certain Nolan Ryan accolades, immaculate innings, fights with Thurman Munson, Fred Lynn. Here it is, right there.
That one you can't read, but about 20 years ago. Now, see, I'm not a big fan of autographs on tickets,
I know.
but I have had Fisk autograph tickets, but I won't do it unless I have like two or three, or and I use the worst version of the ticket. Like I'm kind of like keep the mint immaculate ticket and then have it autographed. So this is like kind of a crummy one, but with this one, I couldn't figure out an inscription that kind of worked. And we thought about it for a couple minutes, and he's like, "Oh, I got it." And he wrote Munson lost. So that's what it says on this ticket, Munson lost. So
that's
that was a good one.
that's great. So you've been able to actually put together for other collectors through you would put out the ads, you would search for the tickets, people would send you shoe boxes of
Oh
tickets,
yeah.
bags of tickets, bundles of tickets. Some you'd pull and you'd find your Fisk games, and then you'd go through and research the other tickets, and there was an ability for you to either trade or sell those more memorable events. Jim Rice saves the boy. Fred Lynn is kissed by Morgana, et
Oh yeah.
cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That were tickets that you accumulated just by searching for these Angels tickets or searching for Red Sox tickets or whatever it might be.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, and in some of these cases, I learned very early on that, especially with like phone ads 25 years ago, it didn't make sense to have people try to search for the dates. It was just kind of get an idea of what you had, like maybe the era of the games you went to, and maybe a general number, and make an offer and buy whatever they had. Because early on, I mean, I was dealing with obviously even at that point, people that were a little bit older. And I realized, I'm like, if I do it this way, I'm going to probably miss something. They might not be able to read the date
Right.
anymore. And, so I wound up with thousands and thousands of tickets. And I'm not exaggerating. I mean, literally thousands. And, and there would be many, many times where I would get collections and there wasn't a single Fisk game in there, you know. But, hey, maybe there's, a few full tickets to the Pine Tar game, or maybe there's a few Ferris Bueller tickets, or the Field
Yeah.
of Dreams, or
Yeah.
I mean, you name it. From my era, like American League '60s to '90s, if it's kind of a memorable game, I probably have had it
That's great.
at some point. That's what's kind of nuts.
And I guess being able to sell some of those games to collectors, they're not really of interest to you. That would be
Exactly.
able to fund kind of your ability to keep searching for the Fisk tickets, the ads, the things like that. So
That's
kudos,
exactly what
kudos
I'll
to
do. I'll
you.
just throw it right back
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
If it's table fee or whatever it is,
yeah.
it just kind of goes back in, and then it goes back to buy the next collection. So it all kind of works.
Let me ask you this, Tony. Can you show us some of your tickets? And then
Sure.
show us some of your memorabilia. So someone's asking, you have all the 10-cent beer night tickets.
You know, um, I only owned one. Well, no, the only one I have, the one Cleveland, I had one of those, but that's probably 20 years ago. And at the time, probably sold it for, the $50 or $40 or whatever it was back then. Completely different era. Just like I said, I gave away the Griffey debut, all those years ago because it's an opening day ticket. Who cares? It's so common. But that's what happens. That's just how it is. Here's Fisk's debut. Can you see it with the glare?
I can see it, and it's a full too.
There's a nice full.
Oh,
Um,
oh my
you
God.
know, the stub is sitting over there, but I put the full out. Let's see.
Wow.
Um, his sixth game overall, number six, was his first hit and his first home run. So his first hit was his first home run.
Wow.
Was at Detroit. Couple of variations of that one, and then this one was he had some condition issues, so of course I had him autograph it and inscribe it many many years ago. Um, and in '71, it was hit obviously on the road. Um, from all my research, he only had one road jersey issued that year. Um,
Holy moly.
it's which is kind of cool. Your iconic
Oh,
27.
God.
Um, cool flannel.
Oh,
And probably the coolest thing, this was already done when I bought this 25, 26 years ago. But when they had it autographed, which I really liked, it's a '70s autograph
yeah.
with in the collar. So when you display it, usually I have it on a bust, like a mannequin type.
Yeah.
And you don't have to see the autograph,
Oh,
but you can see
oh my.
the if we can get the nice McAuliffe tag with the
Yeah.
71 in there.
Wow.
So, the cool flannel with the air holes and the armpits, it's one of those, so to be honest, this was one of those pieces that kind of got me thinking about tickets because what happened with the memorabilia was I started out with baseball cards as a kid, 6, 7 years old. You start with the cards, you start with the normal issues, and then I got into all the food issues and the regional and the oddball. And you do things like toys and posters and magazines and all that kind of stuff. And then I got into finally, I wish I'd have started a little earlier, but I got into game used. And then eventually original artwork, stadium memorabilia, things like that. And this was kind of one of those pieces where I'm like, okay, I have the best jersey I'm going to find for the collection. I have basically, I have 50 plus game used bats at this point, Fisk. But of all these different things, it's like, okay, I kind of have like this off the list, this off the list, what's left? And to be honest, if it weren't for the tickets, I don't know that I would have continued the Fisk collection. I mean, it might have just stalled out,
Wow.
but the tickets got me into, a whole nother like level of research, and it got me into what happened in each of these games and a better appreciation of his career and what he did. And just it also then kind of propelled me into press photos. I was always big into photographs. Over the last summer, my one son and I, he helped me, we organized a little over 1,200 original press photos from his career from the 25 years.
So
So that's why, like,
only 1,200, Tony. I mean,
well, that
that's only
we've
1,200.
categorized so far, but I'm hoping to scan those all in. But that's why if you look at the kind of the stuff I post on Instagram, I don't post very often, but it's always try to make it unique. But I like the photographs when you can date them because then you can throw it together with the ticket, and it kind of brings together a story or a picture, a little different. I mean, that's always the yeah, I mean, like I do game use lineup cards and things like that too. I mean, you name it, if it has Fisk in some fashion, I've
You want
probably
it.
collected it or have it already. But
So I think you were going to show us a glove and a ring, and do you have some of that stuff
let's
there? What
see. Let's
did
see.
you
Oh,
bring
here.
anything with you?
Let's see. I brought to go with that jersey. Now this is a 73. So this is a 73 with Fisk's writing and a 73 autograph. He did it. He signed it in July of 73
Wow.
to a fan. But so this guy kind of matches that jersey. I've never found a 72 hat, but it's the same style. Kind of cool.
Not kind of
Uh,
cool. Very cool, Tony. Very cool.
One of the things that's very, very difficult with Fisk um, has always been legitimate game use gloves. This one doesn't have a ton of use, but what's nice about it is it is autographed. I mean, there's lots of stories out there. If you do any research, he's gone a little off. Like a lot of people have stolen his gloves over the years,
Hmm.
and catcher's mitts that take a while to break in, things like that. Kind of the cool piece about this is I think he was one of the first guys to really kind of use these additional they would sew these pads in,
Yeah.
as an additional protection.
Very cool.
And this one was given to one of the coaching staff, and he autographed it. It's late '80s, early '90s, but just one of those things that was kind of like always on the want list, and it's just very difficult to find.
Yeah. Imagine.
What
I
did
can.
I bring? So let's see. You said tickets.
Well, before you do that, also behind you, because you
Oh,
went to all the trouble to set up here.
yeah, I know.
This is some of
Oh,
the stadium pieces.
so this guy, I don't know if that'll. Okay, so
Yeah.
so this is the wall pad. Is that
Yeah.
you see that? Okay.
Yes. Ugh.
So this is the actual the three panels make up about 12 feet across. That was at U.S. Cellular. So when they built the new park, they called it New Comiskey, and then in I think around 2003 they sold the naming rights and it became U.S. Cellular. So the cell this was present from April of 2004 through August of 2010. So it came down at the end of August in 2010 when they retired Frank Thomas's number. They had to change the whole design. And when they went with the new design, I don't have that one because when they went with the new design, they literally went with blank panels that they put vinyl on. So when those came off, I tried to get them. When those came off, they just had to scrape them.
Hmm.
And literally, my contact at the White Sox sent me a photograph of the shriveled up vinyl Fisk, like all over the warning track, all over the
Hmm.
the back warning track. He's like, couldn't save it, Tony. It wasn't in the cards. But I mean, I don't know if this one comes up. This is not okay. So every once in a while, I veer away from Fisk, but it has to still be like something. Let's say at Fenway during the time he played there, or at Comiskey. Um, this one was kind of cool, I thought. So this was the player entrance sign.
Oh my God. At Fenway.
No, this is at Comiskey. This
Oh,
is
at
at
Comiskey.
old,
Okay.
old Comiskey Park.
Okay.
But yeah, I know I took that down off the wall over there so I could try to get it in the shot.
Wow.
But like things like that. So every once in a while I'll veer off, the mainstream Fisk, but generally I come back to Fisk. It's got to be somehow related tangentially at least. Otherwise there's no point for me.
Tony, clearly your wife is way more tolerable than mine in
Well,
seeing.
I was collecting before we got married 20 years ago, so she knew what she was in store for.
That's
But
that's funny. That's funny. So what can people do to really kind of try and help you out? Is there anybody? I mean, you've been doing this for so long. You've tapped into basically every resource. You know, you're tight and close friends with Lenny Sterren, and he's a good guy. And I mean, you now have talked to some of the other guys who put these ads out, like Dave Yohanai and some of the other guys that are searching for tickets around the country. Um, you know, where do you think these? How are we going to get you these 31?
I don't know. I mean, it's so random. I mean, it's literally so random. I mean, it's funny. Like I would say, in the last couple of years, I actually have found a bunch of tickets from eBay, but not. I mean, somebody once asked me like, "What's the percentage of eBay as opposed to everything else?" And I don't know that, but it's super small. I mean, it's like if eBay makes up, 5% of the overall collection, that'd be a high number in my mind. I mean, I really don't think it is. However, what seems to happen is that, it's the constant scouring. Like the person doesn't list a ticket I need because nothing happened in the game. But if I see a seller that I've never seen before, I'll message, and a lot of times that's helpful. I mean, nowadays it's I don't know, it seems like it kind of goes in waves. Like in 20 years ago, that was really cool. Like you could, like, just message the person and you'd have all kinds of conversations. Now that's curtailed. But um nowadays, if the person responds, it's hit or miss, but sometimes it works out. It's somebody would be like, well, why would I, I'm only listing this because I know this guy did this in the game. Why do you want this game? Well, I don't know, there were 2,000 people, like, I mean, somewhere buried on the site, I actually sort them all by attendance, because that's the other, like we said, the indicator. And a couple of those Kansas City tickets are over 30,000 people at the game. There's no reason why a Kansas City ticket from 85 of all years, has not been found yet. But and then you go back, like my lowest attendance game I still need is an Indians game from 1972 in Cleveland.
What
That's just a
was the attendance, Tony?
2,723.
Oh my.
That's not the lowest game in the collection. I have ones lower, but that's right up there in the top 10.
So Tony, I have three final questions for you. So
Ooh, okay.
so three things that you kind of said to me that stuck with me, and I wanted to make sure. So you said about 5% of the tickets you've acquired as part of the collection have come off eBay. Did you really mean to say this? And maybe I just got it wrong and I wrote it down. That you only really got one ticket that you needed in all of these off of Boogers?
Yeah, I mean, literally, it's from. I mean, I can only remember one truly. That was very early on. Jeremy helped me out with one, a Royals ticket. But other than that, I mean, all the people that I've gotten things from, people on Boogers, I've known them before that. Do you know what I
Right,
mean? It's
right.
not, now I've gotten dozens or hundreds of tickets from there, like color variations and things, but not anything like off the list. I mean, it's very, very, rare that something comes up. So I mean, it's really just, I'm always hoping for that next, like when I put a wanted up there, I get a lot of great comments and people are great, but nobody seems to, see it. I'm hoping that, somebody new out of the 5,000 people there might actually, have saved, have seen it and have something I haven't seen yet.
So,
But
so the other thing, so point number two, question number two, or idea number two was, and I was blown away when you said this. Out of the 31 you need, I think you said, other than one, you've never even seen the other
no,
31, like the 30,
there's
the other 30.
no definite, no, like nobody has it. That's the thing. It's not like I don't know of a single collector that has one that I need. I've already been through that. If they had it, somehow gotten it out of their collections by now. So that's kind of rough. I mean, I've gone through that. I mean, some have taken years, and some are not even collectors. It's just, I mean, I had a lady from Texas who had the majority of the 1973 season, and it took me about 3 years because she went to every game. She almost every game. She would not part with the tickets. I mean, it was an ongoing. It was not a money thing. It was not a. It was She was sentimental. I mean, it was back and forth, and then eventually, she decided to give in, and it worked, and I got two off the list. You know what I mean? I found one Nolan Ryan one for Scott. I found a couple for me, and then a couple others that that came out of that. Um, but yeah, I mean, some of them are the long for the long term, but this particular, at the moment, that's it. I don't know of any of them out there. But did you want
Yeah,
to see some more of these tickets before you
yeah, yeah.
closed
And
off?
then I'll ask you the final question. Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
let's see. So that was the Red Sox Brawl
Yeah,
from 1976 on the cover of the Sports Illustrated. I should have brought down a signed copy of that. Um, here's the longest game, the 25 inning game, and the day after. So like basically when they wrapped for the night, you didn't use that ticket anymore to get in for the last 8 innings. You had to, it's the next day. So Tom Seaver technically gets 2 wins on the same day. Here's some nice full season tickets to that game. Little difficult to find. Um, Fisk hit his only cycle later. That was on the 16th, so like 8 days later. And he was the only White Sox player to ever hit the cycle at Comiskey Park. So 80 years of Comiskey Park, and the only guy to do it at home in those 80 years. Let's see. We got Fisk does his double play at a Yankee Stadium, Berra and Meacham, and there's a nice
very
season ticket. So like I took the full box office and got that scribbled on, but kept the nice full,
looks great.
that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
looks great.
What
Great
else?
stuff.
You wanted to see a bat, I think you
Yes,
said.
I did. If I could see, yes.
So this guy, um, this guy's actually a 1970
Oh,
minor league, and just abused,
yeah.
tarred up. You won't be able to see it, but he wrote Pudge on the knob. But this was actually cracked and then repaired. But this one, is one of the only two minor league bats I've ever come across in all of this Fisk collecting. And I brought the other super rare because he was more Adirondack in his early days, not Louisville Slugger. So in 1976, when they did the bicentennial bats, he only ordered 12 of these bats that whole year. So, there's only a couple of these known to exist with the
Wow.
with the bicentennial logo on there
Very rare.
for Pudge.
Wow.
But
Very
some of those, and then the ring was actually it's actually a salesman sample, or a duplicate of what the White Sox commissioned after he broke Johnny Bench's record for home runs as a catcher, which would be this guy
wow.
in 1990.
Very cool.
So
Very
that's what
cool.
the ring was in that one.
Yeah.
The other, I think the only other cool things. Oh,
It's all pretty
so
cool,
like
Tony. I got
at
it.
one, so in 2005, actually, this is probably the only like post-career thing that I did not attend because I had no clue. For some reason, I didn't know they were dedicating the pole, calling it the Fisk pole at Fenway.
Wow.
And of all things, I mean, I found out literally afterwards. Everything else, I've been there, I attended, all the retirement games and all that stuff. Um, so that's a ticket that's actually very difficult to find a season ticket for some reason for 2005. But about 4 or 5 years after this, they were doing work on the pole at Fenway, and
Oh my God.
we were able to get them to take about a 12-inch piece off, and I had Fisk autograph it. He got a chuckle out of it, Carlton
Oh
Fisk,
my God.
and we have the Fisk pole. There we go.
It's
So,
one of the coolest things I've
so,
ever seen.
I'm
That's great.
always trying to find the obscure or create some new theme, but that's kind of where we're
That's
where
that's
we're
that's
at with that.
great. That's great. Final question to you, Tony, and
Sure.
I have the want list. We try to keep these to 30 minutes. We're
Oh,
at like 44.
oh, okay. I'm
No, no,
sorry, we
no,
went
no,
too
no. We're
far.
doing great. We're doing great. It's all been great. I'm so intrigued. This is a great episode. So this is the list. You don't need to put a dollar amount on it, but I'm assuming that the 31, if anyone can find them, they will be handsomely compensated for their efforts.
Yes, whatever monetary form you want, or trades, or whatever, you name it. I'm a, most people know me as pretty easy to, going with trades and doing different deals like that. So if you find something, I'm all ears. Anything it takes, no problem.
Okay, so anyone out there, let's just finish with this again. Tony Swann, carltonfisk.com. You can email him at tony@carltonfisk.com. He's buying Carlton Fisk tickets that he needs. He needs 31 more for all the games that Carlton Fisk played in the majors. And he's also collecting oddball, unique, and I guess some pretty high-end Carlton Fisk memorabilia. And Tony, what a pleasure to have you on. I've met you a couple of times, and we really didn't get a chance to talk and interact. And we're in the national, and we see each other, we say hello, and that's it. But I just had a really nice time talking to you on the phone in preparation for this, and this show's been really great. So I'm going to post this on Booger, so people who don't really follow IG that much will make sure that they watch it.
Perfect.
But Tony, thank you so much for sharing this with us. Thank you for the education. I wish you all the best. I'm going to try to get you one of these tickets or a few of these tickets. Dang it. I'm not going to charge you anything if I find them, but I'm going to try to get them for you. I promise you I do that, Tony. All right.
That's the nice part. And I can say that many people, once they hear what the goal is and the quest, it's never about money at that point. It's just, hey, can we figure it out? Can we find one?
Yeah.
And that's how I am. Like, you've probably seen, people post like a wanted, with something, and I'll post the pictures of all those tickets that they have, because I know it's important to them. Even if it's a $10 ticket, fine, because it's something that somebody needs to finish a collection. So I'm all for that. If there's something like that, if anybody's, my big repository, if I can help you, it's White Sox from about the 70s to about 2015. Red Sox from the 60s to the 90s. And I have a lot of Twins tickets, even though it's an impossible venue. A lot of Twins tickets from probably late 60s to, actually up until about 2010 or so, till they moved out of the Metrodome. So, those are my 3 American League cities I have a lot of tickets to help people with.
I appreciate that. Now, I'm going to find you one, Tony. I want to find you one because I want to be a part of your great collection. I want to be a part of it because you're a good guy. Tony Swann, thank you so much for being on episode 46 of Stub Love Live with Tony Swann. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.